dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land under the fray, and the home of the brave?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Gary, right here for you on the Freedom Network. Here we are, just one more time. This has got to be how many shows have we done here? A ton of shows here in Northbridge. We're very happy to be here in Northbridge, Massachusetts. It's the Freedom Network. Tim or Gary, gmail.com. Phone number is right there on your TV screen. Groups and info on Facebook. Just send me an email for a link right to timorgary@gmail.com. We have a great show for you tonight, folks. We're going to be talking about guns. We're going to be talking about presidential politics, all that kind of stuff that everybody's been emailing me about. We've had so many emails about the gun issue over the last probably week or two that I would have to put the number at dozens. That's where I'd have to put it. Scores. Maybe we can quote Abraham Lincoln. I've asked our Freedom Network gun specialist to come on the program tonight, talk about the new interpretation of the law by our Attorney General and what that actually means to you as a gun owner. Now, I don't know if anyone knows what it really means, to be honest with you, so we'll find out. But we'll talk to Richard and we'll get some info and have a general talk about gun rights and guns, which I know that so many people that watch the Freedom Network hold dear. Some great info is going to be headed your way. It's by popular demand. That's what it is. We'll take some time. We'll talk about it. But let me get to a few emails first. Tom emailed in and said, Gary, I've been asking about the meal tax and getting rid of it. Like you, I'm not seeing much support, says Tom. Why do you think that is? I think it's disgusting that you reach out and only a few reach back from the other side of the tax issue. Your proposal was sound, gave them more money, and I was on board. But again, they don't seem to care. Their way or no way, I guess. Well, you know, Tom, I'll tell you, I'm still looking into the viability of doing this, and I've got some people also looking into it. If it's going to go down in flames, I agree. Why bother? Right? You know, that's what it seems to be. But I'm not done turning over stones and you know, by the end of the week, I'll have a good idea on if this is something that we should even bother with, to be honest with you. I agree it's sad. It's my way or the highway, and that's what we've seen in this town. But that's okay, because these things go back and forth. And honestly, to be, you know, quite honest with you, if the best they can do is pass a $100,000 tax increase, then we should be paying, I would say, low taxes for a long, long time. Because I will support a low tax rate in this town for a long, long time. If people don't want to come to the middle, then you retreat to your spot, I'll retreat to my spot, and off we go. Helen says, Gary, so what about your presidential vote? Why won't you support Donald anymore? Well, you're absolutely right. I have had a little bit of a cold feeling towards the Donald. I have. Helen and I took a lot of time to think about the the whole issue and who I would support for president. In the end, I mean, I'm going to stand by the fact, and I've said this here on the show many times. If Hillary and Donald are in some kind of a dead heat, and it's a 42 to 42 type of a race, and this here in this state, obviously, and Johnson is way behind, then I'm not going to lie to you. I absolutely will vote for Donald Trump. I will not vote for Hillary Clinton. I won't just not vote. And if it means something that's that much, I think that there's no cause greater than keeping Hillary out of the Oval Office than not. So we do what we need to do. I see this as the election is kind of like an impossible election. There's no way to really be all in with any of them. How can you be all in with any of these folks that are running for president? It's got to be since I've been 18 years old and able to enter the presidential politic arena and vote. This has got to be the worst, and I mean the worst election that I have ever seen. I'm sorry. I'm just sick and tired of hearing that Hillary is so qualified from the same leftists that months and months ago, if we were to go way back, told us, 8 years ago, I guess, basically, that experience doesn't matter. And we must elect Barack Obama because we need new blood. Blah, 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 blah. Now, all of a sudden, experience is important. It's amazing how the left goes left, right, left, right, left, right. And I don't mean politically. I mean at the fork in the road. It's unbelievable. Hillary is the most unqualified person I think I've ever seen to lead America. And I'll tell you why. Because she doesn't she doesn't support the Constitution of the United States. No, she doesn't. She doesn't do it. She sees the Constitution as something to be worked around, something that gets in the way of what she really wants to do, not a roadmap to politically live by. And that's where my disdain comes from her. I mean, it's unbelievable. She's had just a trail of corruption, nepotism, death, character assassination, and dirty tricks and backroom deals. Her entire life has been led feeding at the trough of public money. Yes, it has been. And manipulation of the political system. In my opinion, she's probably the most evil person that has ever run for the presidency of the United States. And I would say that with our even own person that we would call the president of the United States right now, which is really quite a stretch. She's achieved a status for a king or for a queen. That's where she's at. She would be the worst thing, I would say, that could happen to America. On the other side, we've got Donald Trump. And I know that we're going to have a show on after us. It's going to be live, and I would urge you to tune into it. But I'm going to tell you, I might even stick around for a minute because what a windbag this guy is. I mean, he has some ideas that I do agree with. I will say that, absolutely for sure. My issue with him is not really so much rather his person or his politics. I'm sorry, but rather his personal, who he is as a person. With Hillary. Well, I mean, I'm against her politics. I'm also against her personal character. With Trump, I'm more concerned with the character of him than the policy in which he likes to talk about. Which is where I have the feeling that if Johnson is not in it, all right, and I'm looking at polls right now, if Johnson's not in it, well, that's going to be a different situation. I'm hoping that Johnson can be in it. But that said, a huge situation for the Hillary Clinton campaign. I certainly don't want to help her to get elected. But I think that this state, to be quite honest with you, might be a little bit different than I think. And if it is different than I think, then I'll do what I need to do. I certainly will not vote for Hillary. And if let's say it's a 48-48 situation, 4% for Johnson, where does Gary go? Where does the Freedom Network go? The Freedom Network is going to have to go to Trump. Big hold my nose. Trump is he's just showing the behavior of a moron, though, to be quite honest with you. I mean, he lost me. He really has lost me. When I really thought that I could get behind this guy, he's somewhat lost me. First, and I have an article up here, but I won't get too into it. I don't waste too much time. But making fun of a mentally challenged person. I mean, what are you doing? Like Donald, what are you doing? And the supporters of Donald, what are you doing? I mean, why is he up there making fun of somebody that's mentally challenged? Why? I don't really understand that, and I don't like that at all. His nod that he will cave to the gun issue, which we will talk about guns tonight. I know you all want to talk about guns. Trust me, we're going to talk about guns. And I could say, like, Donald, believe me, we're going to talk about guns. I'm the best gun guy you'll ever meet in the whole entire world, right? I mean, that's Trump. And you know what? I'm getting a little bit sick of it. He's going to cave. He's going to cave. The NRA knows he's going to cave, to be quite honest with you. And he indicated that he would cave after the last media blitz, and he was asked. He said, well, maybe he'll have to talk to the NRA about X, Y, and Z. Sorry, buddy, it doesn't fly with me. I mean, I understand that all goes along with the story from all sides. I get it. The thing is that he did not have to say anything. And in fact, to be quite honest with you, if he kept his mouth shut and he didn't talk all the time, he'd probably be in a lot better position than he is today. He just doesn't seem to have the ability to present a mature person with a good grasp on the issues. So it's all personal with him. And as I sit and sift through my notes on the issue, Hillary is so weak. She's so weak that it would be so easy to just beat her on the issues. This is what makes my blood boil. I don't really understand why we're way out here in left field. Without one scandal, probably hundreds and hundreds of them, I could destroy Clinton in a debate, bring her right on here on the Freedom Network. Forget any scandals. All right, we can just go on policy and what she thinks on policy. I wouldn't need to make fun of special needs people. I wouldn't need to call into question the patriotism of military people and their families. And I certainly would not need to say that I am pro-gun and then start to pedal backwards on that. And I'm really upset with Donald Trump on that. Maybe you all didn't catch it, but it was in a speech, and you just YouTube it, and it's right there for you. So all in all, Trump is offering a vision of America that is slipping and starting to fail. I completely agree with him, 100%. I agree on his immigration policy. I agree that we need to do something about that. I really do. But look, I'm not a Johnson fan from way back, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not a supporter of his. I have no real big clue of as to who he is, except what I can research. And there's some things, and there are some issues that I do have with him. But today, in this election, I see someone standing there talking about the Constitution. I see someone standing there talking about freedom, while everyone else is either a moron or being evil. And I just have to say it like that. So yeah, I'll publicly say, and I will encourage you and others to do what I have done. And that is, I don't want to be slaves to a two-party system. It's produced a disgusting election. That's what you have today. This election is a result of the two-party system. I'm jumping ship. I'm going to support Johnson and Weld for president. That's what I'm going to do. And the one thing that Donald's completely, by the way, on spot on, is that America has been and is headed in the wrong direction. That simply leads us to a place that we should not be as Americans. A lot of people have an idea of what America should be. Folks, I look right back to the Constitution. That's what America should be. If you're using that as a roadblock, then you're not really good for them or for our country. So Trump, Hillary, what a freaking joke, let me tell you. So, all right, I'm rambling on, but let's do this. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. I know that I had a ton of emails, all right, about guns. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk about guns. I wanted to get that out there. I am going to support Johnson. I took a robocall actually yesterday. And in my robocall, I did support Johnson, and I think you should too, because I think you should get on the stage. I do. I think you should get on the stage and offer an alternative opinion to the complete idiocy that we're seeing out there today. I know that after I come in, Paul's going to be here soon. He's going to be very upset with me. I know that he is. But Paul, maybe I'll even stay for 5 or 10 minutes and battle with you. But I mean, I've just been full on looking into Trump and who he is and what he's all about, and looking at all the the things that he said over the past 10, 12 months. And to be quite honest with you, he's as much of a moron as Hillary is. The only thing is, I will tell you that if it comes down, and it's like I said, if it's 48-48, okay, and we got 4% for Johnson, I'm gonna throw my bubble. I'm gonna do this around Trump, and I'm gonna hold my nose, and I'll tell you why. Because Hillary Clinton is about the most disgusting thing that I've ever seen even run for president. But I know we want to talk about guns. So it's 7:15. I said that I would try to get. It's almost 7:16. I said that I would try to get all this into myself in the first 15 minutes of the show, and I have. So Richard is here, and he's coming on strong. We're going to talk about the gun issue. I got some articles and some information that I'd like to bounce off of him. But before we do that, we'll take a quick break. Are we ready for a quick break? Yes, of course we are. We're always ready here on the Freedom Network. We'll talk about guns. Maybe we'll bring it back to Trump at the very end, and let's roll that tape, and we'll bring Richard in right after this.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
And guess what this liberal would be all about? This liberal will be all about socializing, would be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
I think when you spread the wealth around, it's good for everyone.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Isn't it a little racist to call it Black Friday?
I took the initiative in creating the internet. I've now been in 57 states. I think one left to go.
Today we have two Vietnams, side by side, North and South.
Therefore, I believe in white supremacy.
Every month that we do not have an economic recovery package, 500 million Americans lose their jobs.
You don't trust me?
Fallen heroes, and I see many of them in the audience here today.
And it happens to be, as Barack says, a three-letter word, jobs, J-O-B-S, jobs.
Proposition 19 won't even legalize marijuana. It will still be legal under federal law.
By saying we will put 2.2 million people to work in the simplest way, we will hire them. We will hire them.
I don't know what the term is in Austrian.
Our national interest ought to be to encourage the best, and the brightest.
Hillary Clinton is as qualified or more qualified than I am to be Vice President of the United States of America. Quite frankly, it might have been a better pick than me.
I don't know that Hillary Rosen, I know three personally, women named Hillary Rosen, so I'm not sure that that those represent the person we're talking about.
A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America.
Rush Limbaugh, I hope the country fails. I hope his kidneys fail. How about that? He needs a good waterboarding. That's what he needs.
That John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate.
I know I'm a broken record about religion, but you know, when that stuff is in your head, it just gives you this neurological disorder.
Education, if you make the most of it, you study hard, you do your homework, and you make an effort to be smart, you can do well. If you don't, you get stuck in a rack.
God rest her soul, and although your mom's still alive as your dad passed. God bless her soul.
Oh, that's very good, Mr. President.
It was like Special Olympics or something.
Stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up, though, pal. Thank you very, very much. I tell you what, stand up for Chuck.
We're talking off the air. Yes, he would have taken Hillary out. I do think that he would have. Biden, who is a complete and utter moron, I would say and agree, but you know what? I'd rather him than Hillary, to be quite honest with you. Anyway, on the Freedom Network here, by popular demand, I mean, we have had a ton of emails, just a ton of emails, Talk about guns. Talk about guns. So we're going to talk about guns. So let me bring in Richard. Richard, how you doing?
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Always
sir.
a pleasure. Great to have you here. As you can see, we've got some weapons out here on the, and I know that you guys can manipulate the cameras. Give a good show of the weapons that we have here. Let's let it ring in Freedom Network. I get a, oh, look at that town hall meeting on with on CNN with Johnson. I just got in. Interesting. That comes from Tom. Trump is shouting, shooting himself in the foot. I couldn't agree with you more, Tom. To be honest with you, I'm not even gonna really go much beyond that. Is to say that that he's really shooting himself in the foot. But anyway, we brought in Richard. Richard's now been on the TV here on his solo shot. Anyway, you see what we got.
Part of the family. That's
Well,
for sure.
you are part of the family. Let me tell you that
you,
much. Let me tell you that much. I know you guys see some props here on the TV, and I'm going to tell you they're real. I will tell you, as I always do, I do not anticipate any spontaneous combustion. I don't anticipate that these guns will do anything and just attack me. I have no fear. I have no fear.
They're well-behaved guns.
They are well-behaved guns. I guess it's all in the training, right? It's all in the training of the gun. Unbelievable. So listen, Richard, we've had so many emails. Let's talk about guns. Now, you're our Freedom Network gun guy. So, like it or not, I call up Richard, 4 hours before the show. Richard, you got to get on the show tonight. And he says, all right, I'll be there. What am I bringing? I said, bring guns, right? Is that what it is? So I wanted you to bring some big guns because big guns seem to be in the news, all over the news. And I've got my trusty computer here, and I don't mean to look away from you all, but I do want to get into some of these things. We've had a serious situation here.
Yes, we have.
So what's happened, Richard? Well, let me first give you a little bit of background, right? A little bit of background. Richard is he's an NRA certified instructor. He provides fantastic classes, which I have taken, into how to utilize a gun, how to handle a gun, how to be safe with a gun. You are what the country needs. More people do need to take those type of classes.
They used to have classes like that in high school.
Imagine
all
in
over
high
the
school.
country.
In
and
high
there was
school.
never, and back then there was never any problem.
In high school, your folks in high school. So, what's happened, Richard? What just happened with the Attorney General? What happened?
Out of the blue. I was going through some Facebook posts, and I noticed someone had PM'd me and said, hey, I guess we can't buy assault rifles anymore in Massachusetts. And originally I just kind of blew it off politely, and I'm like, well, we'll see how things go and stuff. You always hear this. There's always that being thrown out every week for the last 10 years. And then something was just in the back of my mind, and I'm like, well, let me just go through my news feeds. And what happened is the Attorney General for Massachusetts had put a statement out in a newspaper just saying, I'm going to amend one of the laws that we have in Massachusetts, and it's going to encompass essentially all assault rifle type firearms. And essentially that day, no longer can you buy them. And the problem with that is to officially change a law just by throwing a post in a newspaper is not a proper way of letting all the firearms dealers know. If I wasn't on Facebook, I'd still to this day would be selling assault rifles out of my own retail store, because no one has ever given me any contact at all, told me no official notice or anything from the state of Massachusetts.
So, Richard, let me ask you a question. So, you sell firearms. You're an authorized and fine dealer of firearms. And I would encourage people, if you want to buy a firearm, I'd give a look to him. We'll give you all the contact info. But just remember,
all right,
you can always email timandgary@gmail.com. I'll give you any link or anything that you want. But so you can no longer sell an AR-15?
Nope.
And how do you know that?
Other than what I've been seeing in the news and on Facebook, that's it.
So that's it. So there's been nothing that's come from the government to tell you as a gun dealer. There's been no emails, no nothing.
Networking with other gun stores. There were a few gun stores that we are aware of that had to sign a paper to get something in the mail from the state saying you can no longer sell assault rifles. But the majority of the stores that I've talked to, we never heard of anything official.
So let me
from
ask you a
anybody.
question. Today, in 2016, as we sit here, are you selling an AR-15?
Not today.
Not
Nope.
today. Were you 6 weeks ago?
6 weeks ago, yeah, I was doing great.
So there's.
As a matter of fact,
Has there been a new law passed?
There hasn't been a new law passed, no.
So let me ask you. This is my big thing. The Attorney General is not about looking over laws and seeing and making changes to them. The Attorney General just doesn't have that role. So why didn't this come from the courts? Has anybody gone into the court that you know of? Has there been a need to?
After this past Wednesday, there's been a lot of entities that have put in bills and stuff like that, trying to figure out what's going on. There's been talk at the State House and what have you. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not really going to say much about anything yet because nobody really knows anything. It's a lot of talk. Everybody knows it stinks like dead fish, that you just can't manipulate the wording of a law all of a sudden out of the blue and consider that to be the law of the land. And I know it's going to get appealed because it's just, I think, against the law.
Well, I mean, the issue that I see, to be quite honest with you, with this entire situation is that there is a law. The law hasn't been changed. It's been in context for I don't know how many years, folks.
Like 15 years.
Okay, so 15 years it's been there. So now all of a sudden, 20 days ago, whatever the case may be, the Attorney General of the state has decided they're going to reinterpret the law. Now, why didn't she have this interpretation from the beginning?
I have no idea. It's
So-
got to be a political thing.
So here we are, and we sit here, and you can see that we have guns here. I don't know if you have the ability to zoom in or anything like that, but we've got some guns here. Are we sitting here with illegal guns?
As far as from what I gather from what she had said, these are grandfathered in.
Okay.
So as of that date, a week and a half ago, whatever, you can own these.
Now, as you see, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but as you can see, we've got two different guns here. Now, people may not be able to really see both of the firearms. You can obviously see this one, and it's a traditional looking, right? It's got a wood stock.
Yep.
It's got a wood on the barrel underneath it, and it looks kind of like a rifle, right?
That's what it is. These are a modern type
So
of rifles.
what now? This other, thank you for getting rid of that. This
There you
other
go,
one
thank you.
that's down here below. Now this it's black, right? It's slick.
Yeah.
It's got a whole different look to it. What's the difference between these two weapons?
To tell you the truth, there isn't one iota bit of difference between these two.
Now, I went out on a limb there, folks. I'm going to tell you right now, we don't sit and have big, long interviews before the program and say what we're going to say.
Fresh.
Right? We don't do that. And,
Yep.
and everybody that goes on the Freedom Network knows that. I give you a very little bit of information, and then we just go live, right? Because that's how I like it. I like it to be just the way it is.
Spontaneous.
So I have no idea what both of these weapons are, but I wanted to ask the question just to see. So they're similar weapons.
Well, because of what's been going on in the last few weeks, I wanted to at least bring a couple of assault rifles into the show to at least show people what we're all talking about here. What's the big deal? And essentially, by the federal government, their definition of assault rifle is any rifle that has a pistol grip on it, some type of maybe a possible scope. If you see right here, right here, on the very end of the barrel is a flash suppressor. A magazine that can hold more than 10 rounds. And on some rifles, you got to get a bayonet lug. and an assault weapon holds at least 2 of those characteristics. All right, that's fine. 15 or so years ago, the manufacturers are like, well, okay, that cuts this state out, that cuts that state out. So let's start manufacturing some of these where instead of having the flash suppressor, we just cut the barrel off. So it's just a straight barrel. Okay, that gets rid of one category. Connecting the grip to the stock, that gets rid of another category. And so they essentially can sell the same firearm, but without all these markers on it that would identify it as an assault rifle. And things have been going well. No one's stolen one of these and gone out and slaughtered people from Massachusetts here and what have you. Everybody who's owned these, the thousands and thousands of people who have bought these, are law-abiding, tax-paying citizens who want to just genuinely protect themselves and have fun. Well, last week, the Attorney General was like, okay, well, if this bolt can fit this gun, then that gun automatically turns that into an assault rifle, whether it is by the definition by the federal government or it's not.
You know, I got to jump in here just for a quick second, because the reality is there any weapon, period, that you would, I mean, whether it's my son has a license to carry a knife when he goes to Scouts, because he's got his badge that says that he can carry that. So is that an assault knife? Where do we end with it? The Second Amendment is pretty clear, and if you really look into Madison and who is by far the best, I would say, in my opinion, the best constitutionalist that you're going to find would be Madison. He very clearly explains why the Second Amendment exists. And folks, it's got nothing to do with hunting. It's got nothing to do with target practice. They don't even mention that. It's not even a glimmer in the eye of the founders of the United States of America. And then I hear people say, well, you know, and I'm going to talk about my son again because I talk about my son. I love my son. What are you going to do, right?
Hey, that's great.
So he just went on a big Scouts trip, okay? And he went out and he did all kinds of stuff, and they wound up in Gettysburg. And they're in Gettysburg, and I said, so how was Gettysburg? And he tells me all about it. And he says, you know, he says, Dad, I came down toward the end, and they showed us like an armory, like all the different guns they had. And they had a huge thing, he said, you know, it was 15, 20 feet wide, loaded like this with guns. Most of them with bayonets, muskets, and all that kind of stuff. He said, but at the end, they did have other guns that were there. And I've talked on the Freedom Network many times about the Puckle gun, which was basically a hand revolving. You pack all the muskets at first, and you can fire them out. You know, at 7 or 8.
Cutting edge at the time.
I mean, that was cutting edge. But people say that, oh no, they never envisioned anything. It wouldn't take 5 minutes to load. No, that actually the Puckle gun was invented, folks. I think it was about 75 years before the United States of America even existed. But he said to me that there were actually some things that they explained to them. They were some quick loading. So they had these actual things back there. Now, this is way back in Gettysburg, okay, where you could actually put not a cartridge. I can't say it the wrong way. If my son was watching, I would wish that he would call me, but I don't think that he's watching. I get a couple emails coming in, but hang on a second. But that you could actually put these things in, and they would be preloaded with the gunpowder, the musket, and everything
wrapped
that
up
you
in
needed,
paper and
all
tied up
wrapped
with
up,
some
so that
string
you
and
could
shove it in
shoot and you could load and you could shoot. So this notion that in 1770 or 1776 or 1772 that you couldn't get off more than one round within a 3 to 4 minute period is absolute BS. Is what it is, folks. You certainly could. And they had many cutting-edge firearms at that time. And if they could have had these firearms here, they certainly would have taken them. So to me, this is just crazy talk. Now, Baker has come out, our governor, who I voted for, has come out and said that he is completely against what the Attorney General has done. And his quote is, that she has the authority and jurisdiction to clarify the definition of assault weapons to ban certain sales. But if there are people that are selling weapons that violate an assault weapon ban in Massachusetts, it's important to get this clarified. So he's asking, what are we clarifying? We've been doing this since before he was elected, right?
Yep.
Before Baker was even there. Now all of a sudden he's like, well, hold on a second. What is it that we're talking about? These two weapons here, folks, if I came and if we can get in there, if I came and I said to you, this gun right here is being banned, you would say, well, it doesn't look so scary, right? Not a big deal. This one almost blends in with the case, right? It's got a little bit of, it's discreet, it's all black, it looks like it's nasty, but as Richard just told us, there's really no difference, right?
Nope, not at all.
Really no difference. So what do you think? So I got some emails coming in. I'm going to get a couple of them. Hang on one second. Here's this one. Gary, I love it when you have Richard on, and thank you. I was one of the dozens that asked you to do this show.
Thank you.
You got it, my friend. You got it. Another one comes in. Yes, I like Richard. Richard is very good to be on the show. Richard should be on the show as often as you can.
Good.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
You know, and we'll give you contact information for Richard. Richard's a good guy. Listen, I took his gun course. It's fantastic. It's right on the money. And certainly email me. We'll give you some web addresses and some Facebook stuff, but it's tough when you're on TV and you're trying to write stuff down. Nobody's got a pen with them. I understand that. So what I would ask is that you just email me. I'll email you links. I can get all the links in the whole world and get them right back to you. But I mean, I think that is right. I think he's right here. I mean, Massachusetts bans the sale of assault weapons. Now, let's just talk about one. Assault weapons. If I have a .38 snub nose, very small gun, right?
Yep.
That's an assault weapon, folks. I can assault you with that weapon. All right? I don't understand where this comes from, these assault weapons.
Excuse me. Even the word assault weapon, that just drives me bonkers.
Is there a weapon
It's
that
a
isn't an
defensive
assault weapon? I mean, any weapon is an assault weapon, isn't it? Like if I have a weapon and I'm going to use the weapon, if I have a slingshot, right? I have a slingshot and I'm going to use that to get rid of people that are coming, at me, that I am assaulting them. That's an assault weapon. Folks, they're right there. These guns aren't doing anything. All right? Somebody has to do them. So I had some, and I'm going to fly right through all of this gobbledygook that I have, because I get all kinds of stuff ready for you. You know me. I always come prepared to the show. But I want to get some gun numbers. Now, I looked all around, and I want you to know that it's hard to get real numbers. It really is hard to get real numbers, because depending on how they count the incidents that happen, the numbers then change. So lots of numbers exist about guns. So let's bring something home. Let me bring something home to you, all right? The media runs with all different kinds of numbers. The fact of the matter is you can get anywhere from 30 to 40, some cases 50,000 people that are killed by guns in an average year. And the media will always run with the highest number.
Of course.
They're always going to run with the highest number. It's amazing. It really is amazing. So let's look at some other numbers. All right, the reality of percentages. That's what I like to get. So this data, all right, I'm going to give it to you. It comes from 2013. And the reason it comes from 2013 is because it's 100% complete. And you know how long it takes the government to get data. So I wanted to get the data 100% that I could have it. All right, Dustin Hawkins wrote an article. There are updated numbers, but they don't change that much from year to year. Okay, folks, I'm going to be honest with you. They really don't. This is the best and most complete info that I could get on the gun issue. All right, so I'm going to run with them, and then we'll get Richard's comment. There are roughly 32,000 gun deaths per year in the United States. So we could go at 22, we could go at 50. I'm going to go with what this guy says, about 32,000. That's an average over a long period of time. Of those, 60% are suicides, folks. 60%. 3% are accidental deaths. That's less than 1,000. And about 34% of deaths, just over 11,000, and then that was in 2010 and 11, make up the remainder of the gun deaths. Now, I'm going to read this to you because I don't want to misrepresent it. Sometimes the 32,000, 11,000 figure are used interchangeably by gun control advocates. Clearly, the 32,000 figure is far more dramatic of a number and is often used for impact. But these numbers also regularly compared to other countries' gun stats. But the reality is, folks, are they true? Are they really true? If you want to take them all on just like the way they are. So to hear gun control advocates speak, one would think that one would be led to believe that the gun violence is a widespread problem, huge issue, everybody's at risk, anybody could be shot at any time in the entire world. But the reality is, folks, the reality is that homicides are overwhelmingly tied to violent acts. So a staggering 80% of gun homicides, 80%, are gang-related. And according to the Center for Disease Control, that's the CDC, gang homicides accounted for roughly 8,900 of the 1,100 gun murders in both 2010 and 2011. That means that there were just 2,200 non-gang related firearm murders in both years in a country of 300 million people, and one with 250 to 300 million guns in it. So this is where I get kind of crazy. 2,200 gun homicides per year beyond gangs. So 2,200. All right. So that's probably the most relative statistic that I could find of all gun statistics. All right. And the gun control debate, all right, is about 2,200 people. Because I'm not a gangbanger and I'm probably not going to be killed by gang violence. I don't think that you are. I don't think that anybody in the control room is. I really don't think so. So as a result, the gun laws would be more targeted, you would think, toward that. Yet most gun control legislation would do little or nothing to deal with the 2,200 gun deaths that we're really talking about. So when you centrists that are out there decide that you want to lobby and get into the gun control debate, and when Donald Trump himself, as I noticed that Paul is in the building, wants to indicate that he's going to fold to the gun situation, and I'm going to tell you something, I might even hang around there for a few minutes, because I have on YouTube, and I have it, where he says blatantly that he would need to talk to the NRA about X, Y, or Z. That makes me very nervous about him. The United States is one of the most gun-friendly countries in the world. Roughly half of Americans own a gun. Richard, what's going on?
It's amazing to me how a very small, finite amount of population is actually affected by gun violence. Like you were saying, like 22,000, whatever it was.
2,200.
2,200.
100!
Out of millions and millions
300 million people!
You know, it's all about control. The bottom line is all about control. When people see a robbery or something bad's happening and the police are there, and sometimes you see the police being aggressive with everybody, just trying to pigeonhole everybody and just trying to control the situation, because they need to be under control in order to make sure the bad guys are in one corner, the good people are away from them, and they can understand what's going on. It's all about control. Step back, think broader. It's all about the control. Who do you want to control you? Your government or the citizens of the government?
The citizens,
Richard. That's what the
Richard.
Second Amendment is all about. So the citizens can remain in control of the government and not the other way around. And actually, in modern times, this is all we have to defend ourselves against the government if we ever had to.
Folks,
and what the government has against us is just mind-boggling.
You know, I have a very...
Not that, I'm not an anti-government guy, but I'm just saying this is the reality of it.
Well, the government is something to be anti these days anyway, but that's my opinion.
It's scary in
That's
some
my opinion,
facets
but
of it.
the fact of the matter, folks, is that this debate, this gun debate, is very, very personal to me, okay? Because I can't go back, all right? I cannot go back that far and trace my ancestry, because most of it was wiped out, okay? Most of it was wiped out by a tyrant that took the guns away from people, and the only time that the people could stand up okay, that my ancestors and my family could stand up was when they had firearms. So when I look at things of this nature and I look at the government, okay, gaining more and more access to more and more guns, okay, and local police departments looking like military organizations, not police departments, I get to a situation where I get a little bit nervous, all right, and I do. And that's the whole point of what James Madison said. He telegraphed the Second World War and Hitler way before it ever even happened, because he knew that eventually, and as he had seen, it didn't matter what the weapon was, whether the weapon was a catapult, whether the weapon was mass amounts of people. He knew that if the government controlled the weaponry, that we would be in trouble as a new nation. And I'm going to be very frank with you and very honest with you and tell you that these guns that we see sitting here, these are the same. If Madison was alive today, he would look at these guns and say, these are the guns of today, and he would think that you should have them. Now, a lot of you wouldn't like Madison because, to be honest with you, he would also feel that if the government had grenades, you should be able to have grenades. He would feel that if the government had automatic weapons with the ability of firing, you know, a Gatling gun or whatever the case may be, he would want you to have that too. Because these folks understood that the governments can run amok. That's what they understood. Yep. So where are we in this gun debate, Richard? I mean, this is unbelievable.
You get one power-hungry person in government who is sly enough. Well, you're talking about your ancestry and your history and stuff. Mm-hmm. Way before Hitler was in office, he was very sly. He worked the long game, and very slowly over years, he manipulated people, crowds of people, groups of people. And as he slowly stepped up into power, those manipulations got even worse. And over time, people didn't even give it a moment's thought. And the next thing they knew, they turned around. They were stripped of all their ways of protecting themselves against the government, and the government literally owned them.
It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. Now look at it like this, right, folks? I mean, in instance after instance, all the time, okay, throughout the history of the world, you can see where the government disarms the people in one way or the other, whether it's from 1420 or 2016, it doesn't matter. Wherever the people do not have the right to own this, you have a situation of tyranny. You have a real situation. And like I said in the beginning of the show, this is where I run away a little bit from that Donald Trump. Yep. This is where, and you know what I'm talking about because you're a gun guy. You know what he said. And what he said was reprehensible, even though he hasn't acted on it yet. He was asked, and what he was trying to do, which is what he always tries to do, is just please the people that are in front of him. Yep. That's what he tries to do.
I respected him so much because he was so steadfast.
I really did too.
That was awesome. And then when he started flip-flopping, you might as well have been Kerry again all over the...
It was unbelievable to see him. I mean, of all the people that he doesn't care what people think about him, so he speaks his mind. And this is where I pulled out. This is where I said, you know what? The heck with it. I'm not going to go for it. I got an email coming. Let me grab it. Gary, I see that, and I just searched YouTube, and I found Donald saying that he may, hang on, it goes into the thing, he may cave on the gun issue. I never knew this. Thanks for bringing it to light. Yeah, he will cave on the gun issue, folks. He's going to cave. He's going to cave on the gun issue. What he's going to do is he's going to be okay with a ban on this. That's what he's going to do. He's going to be okay with a ban on this, especially that right there, because it looks terrible. He may not want to ban this, but he's going to want to ban that because that looks bad. Folks, it's ugly.
And 50 people surrounding him and his family every day all have these to protect him.
I can't even come to the agreement. We got a call coming in? All right, we got a call coming in. Let me get a call in. Good evening. We got a special line. I think I may know who this is. What's up?
I don't think so, Gary. I don't know you. My name is Mike. How are you and Richard doing this evening?
Oh, hey, Mike. How you doing?
Good, thanks. I'm an NRA member,
Okay.
And I'm legally licensed to carry a firearm by the town of Northbridge.
Okay.
A process that took about 12 weeks to complete, with several background checks and so on. And I was granted that license, and I do have a gun that I carry, and I have one that I use to protect my home. This is why people need to be concerned about what the AG did. Her objection to the guns was specifically in the way they function, Gary. That is semi-automatic. A semi-automatic gun is any gun that fires a bullet and automatically loads another bullet into the chamber that's ready to fire. This applies to almost every handgun that most people use. The only other type is revolvers.
And even a revolver, if I can interrupt you, caller. I mean, to me, I can just keep pulling the trigger and just keep shooting, right?
Right, but you have to pull the trigger once to produce one result.
Right.
You can't pull the trigger and spray bullets everywhere.
Okay.
So that's an important difference between a semi-automatic and a fully automatic weapon. Here's my challenge. It can be debated whether a large caliber weapon that has a 10-round magazine is appropriate for home defense or not. It certainly is appropriate for target shooting. The real statistic that I would like to see that I've never seen is how many gun deaths are perpetrated by those who have undergone the process, been screened, and legally licensed to possess and carry a firearm. My thinking is that numbers are very small, Gary.
You know, I'm going to tell you, you bring up a fantastic point, right? A fantastic point. People that have gone through a course like Richard offers, and people that are approved, you know, through the chief of police, which, you know, and I say this all the time, and I don't mean any disrespect to our chief, because we have a great chief of police, but there is no way in any realm that I think that a chief of police in a certain town should be able to decide whether a federally guaranteed right is okay or not. But that's my opinion. But you're 110% right. Where are the facts on these kind of things? And you know what, Colin? They don't exist. You know why? Because they don't show what the gun opponents want to show. That's why.
And they don't show what the mainstream liberal media want to show.
That's right.
Exactly.
Trust me, if they did, they would. I mean, we live in a country of 300+ million people. We have anywhere arguably between 250 and 300 million guns in the nation. We know that in World War II, when there were a huge amount less guns in the private population, that the generals of Japan, most notably one general, said, you cannot attack the United States of America simply because behind every blade of grass there's a guy with a gun. So
Nikita Khrushchev shared that view.
That's the one right there. I couldn't grab it. Yes.
Nikita Khrushchev said just that. No one will ever invade America because so many of them are armed.
And so many people can't stop and take a step back and look at globally, nationally, how us owning firearms has kept so many of our enemies from attacking our homeland. It's that powerful.
You'll never see it.
Having it.
You'll never ever see that. You'll never see it because that doesn't go to the narrative that we should just get rid of these. It just doesn't. What else you got, Carl? Let me give you.
No, man, I just want to amplify the point that the citizenry needs to be aware that an attack on the way those weapons function is an attack on almost every legally possessed gun there is, other than revolvers. Today are a small minority.
She could have just said right in that report, anything that goes bang is gone.
Right?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for the call. I so appreciate it. Call right on in. Listen, we've found ourselves with 30 seconds left. You know that's what happens to us, Richard. Every time we get on, it goes by just like that. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Folks, Richard is available. He's there for you. If you need advice on guns, you want to buy a firearm, you want to learn how to use firearms, even if you don't want a license, it certainly makes sense.
All day long.
All the time. Send me an email, timorgary@gmail.com. I will get you his info. Folks, My name is Gary. I am here on the Freedom Network. We're here every week. Coming up next, you're going to see a live program, so make sure that you don't switch that station. We'll see you next time on the Freedom Network.
Thank you
Richard.
very much.